Welcome back to another episode of Fine Margins.
Yeah.
I'm Ben with my co-host Bella. We're switching up the intro.
We are back for the 2023 Formula One season, and the Bahrain Grand Prix has just ended. It wasn't the nail-biting race event we were hoping for, but everything after P2 was kind of thrilling and potentially sets up for a very exciting 2023 season. In this episode of Fine Margins, we will cover the race results and the key takeaways, whether they reflected what we saw in quali and preseason testing, and each team's individual performance.
Before we start is an intro into this channel. We give you everything you need to know to follow F1.
We also dive into its bigger pictures, like the future of F1 for women, diversity, sustainability, the business, and more.
If you love this sport and everything that goes on behind it, you've come to the right place. But let's jump into the key takeaways of the first race of the 2023 season. So, interestingly enough, the overall gap between fastest and slowest was much closer this year than in previous years, which brings us back to the question of, are we getting more exciting racing? Arguably and statistically, yes, we are. But in terms of the race results, Red Bull has maybe, but to be determined, a more dominant car than they've had in 2022. Now, whether the car's more dominant or not is still to be determined, but it is clear that they are dominant, and it is clear, as you said, that perhaps their closest competitors, Ferraris, haven't taken as much of a step forward as Red Bull have taken in their car's improvements. So, you know, George Russell commented today he wouldn't be surprised if they won every race of this season.
It looks like it. The dominance of their performance, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised at this, right?
Yeah. Ferrari, I think the word here is deja-vu. I think having one car DNF and another car have a problem was it a problem with tire strategy, or was it just like a high deg thing that they couldn't avoid?
I think it's not a strategy issue. I think it's a car issue in terms of the direction they decided to go with their car. They haven't improved on what they've struggled with last year. Yeah. But then the new thing that we're going to talk about before we talk about Mercedes. Bear with us, this is the first race of the season, so, you know, we're a bit rusty. Of course, the AMR Aston Martins. They are going to be the dark horses of this season, and my big question is, what is the future of Aston Martin? Well, it's a bit difficult when you're in Mercedes' position, because you give the engine, you provide the power unit for this car.
Yeah.
And they've simply built a better car than you, as they're just outperforming you in the straights and in the corners. So it's a bit disappointing. It begs the question, right? Like, what would the current updated Mercedes engine look like with the Red Bull aerodynamic package, with the, you know, side pods like everyone else? Because even the Williams, right? Like, everyone has copied mixtures of both the Red Bull and the Ferraris, and they have picked up pace. And sure, the gap is definitely smaller with Mercedes, but is this concept the right concept, or are we again now seeing a deja vu with Mercedes of, are they missing something in the car? Is what they're seeing in their testing and in their simulators different to what's happening on track? And if so, why? And if they can't figure it out, what is making them hold on so dearly? I mean, you said there was like a plan B car, which apparently were rumours. Well, yeah, they've come out and said that's not true. But I think they're sticking hold to this concept because Chauvelin, who's the head engineer of Mercedes, he came out and said that if you copy another team, you're basically going back to square one. Yeah. Because you have all this data for your car performance. Yeah. And you only have limited data on how well, let's say, the Red Bull side pods are performing for Red Bull. Yeah. So you basically go back to square one and then have to start from the beginning. And in this cost cap season, that's very, very costly to do, to put yourself back in square one. I was reading that, and I don't know if this is true either, is that they have a model of this car in which they can attach side pods. So they might bring in side pods, and I think if they do, any of those kind of upgrades will happen in the gap we have in April, because we were meant to have the Chinese Grand Prix, which obviously now is not happening due to COVID. Well, originally it was COVID. So, and then I think the final big takeaway of this race, for anybody that just wanted to know the takeaways, is what has happened
to McLaren.
Well, it's a disaster. It's a complete disaster. And Piastri must be kicking himself a little because...
I think Otmar Schaffner was having...
the time
I think he was laughing in the press conferences about that move because of how bad their car is.
They have taken a massive step back somehow. And, I mean, their car wasn't even that fast last year, and they were only... we have mentioned this 1,000 times. They were only in the battle for P4 because Lando Norris was driving the wheels off that car. The Alpines had a much faster car and also had terrible reliability issues. And now they seem to have taken another step back. And you have to feel for Lando that he has signed this massive, I think, 6-year contract with McLaren, which I think he's only a couple years into. And he's stuck there. And it doesn't look like they're going to take the next step.
Well, what I was talking about with the people I was watching the race with is if Aston Martin are presenting a really quick car and Lance Stroll is pulling his weight or Fernando Alonso retires, you know, is that the case? I mean, there's a lot of good drivers who want a championship winning car.
Well, it's interesting.
But I think
he signed himself
Norris
to this.
could.
He signed himself to this 6-year contract, but I mean, I don't know. Could have realised that you could have had the Mercedes option because Hamilton.
Yeah.
You know, obviously he can still go for a couple of years, but how long left does he have? He's already 37, 38, you know? And he's accomplished everything you can in Formula 1.
Well, Alonso's 41.
Alonso's
and 41. He's back, so...
But there could have been a Mercedes option. Red Bull and Christian Horner have always been very high on Lando Norris, and they have pushed to get him. And they went out and said that each time they tried to push to get Lando Norris, McLaren just signed him to a bigger contract. And in addition, you know, a team like Aston Martin has come out of the woodworks, you know, to be a very competitive and potentially race-winning car.
Yeah.
So he had options. And I understand that McLaren were an upwards trend, especially after the 2021 season where they won in Monza, where they finished first and second. And on top of that, Lando Norris could have won in Sochi in Russia. But obviously, we know the disaster that happened there. And they were on the up, but it seems so odd to sign yourself to such a long contract. Where really Formula 1 isn't the sport where people sign themselves on a long contract. And I think it's the same thing with Charles Leclerc. He signed a massive contract with Ferrari. And they are, frankly, don't look anywhere near to winning a championship.
Yeah.
And they seem to have the same Ferrari issues you continuously see. And you stuck with them for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first race. And I think Ferrari I'm a little bit less worried about because... yeah, like the engine. Yeah, I mean, this is the first big race. There's upgrades to the car. Like, you don't put it through that many laps. Like, that one race. I mean, last year Red Bull DNF both cars on the first race. So I don't think that's necessarily reflective. And hopefully, you know, it's upwards and onwards from here. But with the McLaren, it's scary. I mean, you know, 5 pit stops with the record of the most amount of pit stops in 1993 with Alain Prost.
With 7.
What did I say?
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying the record pit stops was 7. You just
right. We I'm doing really well today. But yeah, 7 record pit stops, and you know it wasn't. There were so many issues. The steering wheel wasn't working for Piastri. Norris was having hydraulics issues. Like when he was coming in, because they had a hydraulics leak. They were pressurizing the hydraulics, which I've never seen. And you said this, like they kept him out because they needed the data.
That's what I think.
But it's like, how?
Because there's no way you don't retire that car. He was last by like 25 seconds, not to his own fault because he had to pit 5 times.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the only reason McLaren have kept him out there so they can get car data. Yeah. But I knew the McLaren season was going to be a disaster when the first couple of days of testing they come in, and once again they were having brake cooling issues. Which is the exact same problem they had in the 2022 pre-season testing. They could not. Their brakes kept busting. They were too hot. They couldn't cool them down. You've had a whole year, and that's still your issue at the start of the year. That doesn't make sense. Yeah.
I mean, they missed a lot of their development goals in leading up to this season, which for me, and we'll go into this in the team breakdown. I don't want to dive into it now, but. Look, I'm not in McLaren. I don't know what's going on. The only issue I see is that I feel, and I'm going to signpost this as an assumption, that Zach Brown is a bottleneck in that business.
It's odd.
I think he brings in money, but why is he on the pit wall? He's the CEO.
I was thinking about this earlier, and I was like, financially, he's done wonders for McLaren.
Job, yeah.
And he said when he came in, well, firstly, when he came in, McLaren didn't have any money, and now they've got the most sponsors in the world. Yeah. I mean, like, every bit of their car is a sponsorship.
Yeah.
And on top of that, when he came in, their factory was outdated, their wind tunnel was outdated, there'd been no infrastructural investments, and he's come in and he's fixed that.
Yeah.
Great. Saved the team. But it is odd that he's always on the pit wall. I don't know. I hope he's not making decisions because it's not his area of expertise. And has he hired the right people? My worry with McLaren is that they suffer from the same issue as Ferrari, which is we're going to do it our way. You know, the Ferrari, we're going to do it the Italian Ferrari, way, which obviously doesn't work. And because obviously McLaren and Ferrari are two of the most successful teams, and Ferrari being the most successful team of all time, and McLaren being one of the most successful teams of all time. And obviously they've got this grand history in motorsports, but I think it still gives them this some sort of arrogance that we deserve to be back at the top, we will make it back at the top. And it's not the case, because Ferrari's not won a championship since 2007 and McLaren's not won a championship from 2008. And on top of that, they've both gone through some very, very dark days, especially in the turbo hybrid era. McLaren more than Ferrari, but complete disaster decades where they did not achieve anything significant. And I worry that they do have this arrogance of we're going to do it our way and we're going to get back to the top. Well, obviously, that's not the case. If you look at Aston Martin, what they did was they poached all the best engineers and technicians and anyone that works in a car from Mercedes and Red Bulls. They see, listen, our engineers haven't cut it, we're probably not going to design the best car in the world for ourselves. Let's go hire the best. That's how you become successful. You hire the best people. You get the best drivers and you get the best engineers. McLaren, when they promoted Andrea Stella internally, I was thinking, is that really the best option, considering I was watching McLaren's strategies in 2022 and they weren't that good. They weren't, honestly. Lando Norris was frustrated. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is Monaco, when there was a whole debate of, do we want to go to Inters or should we just wait to go to slicks? And then he had a massive lead. He had a massive gap somewhere in the mid part of the race, and he's like, can I pit, go to another tyres and set the fastest lap to get some more points? And the team just weren't really giving him anything. And then to promote him internally, I don't know. I worry about them. I really do.
Yeah, I do think there's a management problem. I mean, no other team is seeing such delays in development. And how did that happen? It's not like they've launched a whole new car. So there's a question there. It's like, what's happening internally at McLaren? And then what will Norris do if he doesn't? If this is as bad a season as maybe it's looking to be, but who knows? What's he going to do? Because everyone wants to see him in a good car.
That's the problem.
So, yeah. The big takeaway is, are we looking at a season where actually the real battle is Hamilton versus Alonso? And I think two great champions. They have a big history together. We won't go into it today. But there's always been that kind of personal tension. I think Alonso always wanted to be able to have a car that really competes with Hamilton, and I think it's an interesting time now, and this race was proof of it. The most interesting parts of this race was the battles between the two of them.
I think Alonso, because Alonso's made some obviously elite driver, one of the most talented drivers that'd be on the grid, but terrible career decisions in terms of teams go through. And I
think is karma.
I wonder if he looks at Hamilton and goes like, that should have been my career, because he in his mind thinks he's better than Hamilton. But obviously Hamilton gets all the praise because he's a 7-time world champion and has broken every record in the book, and obviously he deserves everything. But Alonso looks and be like, that should have been me.
Yeah.
And Hamilton only got that far because he was in a better car than him.
I mean, Hamilton also didn't try and bribe engineers to not work on his competitive
and beat him in his rookie year.
But it is what it is. Okay, so before we go on to like how this all turns out in the constructors and drivers and how the individual teams actually performed, how does this stack up to preseason testing and what we saw in quali?
I think what we saw in preseason did translate quite well to what we've seen this season, because Red Bulls looked like they were the fastest. And as we've seen in the race today, Red Bulls were the fastest by a considerable amount. Ferrari still looked like they were quick. They probably looked quicker in pre-season and quali than they did. They've still got the same issues. They've got the worst race pace in the world compared to the other competitors. Aston Martin looked very quick and potentially in the hunt for a podium. That's exactly what happened. Mercedes looked like they were also in that mix of like third to fourth fastest team. Potentially, we thought Aston Martin would be faster than them, and that seems to be the case for the first race of the season. Obviously, I do think they're quite close, and that can change at some point during the season. McLaren looked like a disaster show, translated quite well. And then the other teams, Alfa Romeo looked like they had some pace, Haas looked like they had some pace, which they all kind of showed at different parts. Haas had a very good qualifying. Haas might end up in the points. Williams looked like they made massive improvements in pre-season testing, which they have during the race. And kind of the rest of the teams were just a bit kind of forgettable. AlphaTauri in that midfield battle, AlphaTauri were what we expect them to be. They're not going to kind of be a truly competitive midfield team.
No. The drivers' championship is pretty clear. It's Max, Perez, Alonso, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, Bottas, Gasly, Albon, and then the rest of the grid. In terms of the constructors, it's Red Bull, Aston Martin. Mercedes, Alfa Romeo,
Alpine Williams.
I can't believe Ferrari are not in that top 5. But...
No, they are. They're 4th.
To mention them. So it's Red Bull, Aston Martin, Mercedes, Ferrari,
Alfa Romeo, Alpine Williams.
Oh, okay, cool. One of the best moments of this race, in my opinion, the overtake of Hamilton going onto the inside of Alonso as...
Alonso overtook
what's his name? Martin Brundle would say the switcheroo.
The old switcheroo.
Which he gets a lot of stick for.
Crofty,
the switcheroo.
The old switcheroo.
And then Alonso overtaking Hamilton on a corner that you don't often see overtakes, which was, I think, the hairpin.
Yeah. I mean, it was some great, clean, competitive racing. That's what you'd love to see.
It was great. Lance going into Alonso, and then the
on
team
the first lap.
Not telling Alonso.
First lap.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible. But they seem to... They actually seem like they're quite good teammates for some reason. Really? Which is weird. Maybe just Alonso knows that his dad owns the team and he has to be nice.
I was debating whether when Alonso was in the room, the podium room, which he was like, oh, this has changed since I was last year. But when he was watching the replay, whether he didn't realise that it had been Lance. I couldn't tell from the radio comms, but I think they hadn't told him.
Yeah, probably not to tell him. They'll discuss that behind closed doors, obviously. I think Alonso will be happy because he probably finished as high as he could. Yeah.
And then Alonso's quote, I think towards the end of the race, being like, after he made 2 overtakes, which I think was Hamilton and then Sainz, he was like, this is a lovely car to drive, which is so funny. And then Ocon's consistent mistakes and then his radio message going, I've been driving for X amount of years, I've never been pulled up for this, which I think is once again just victimization on his part. Like, you made a mistake, you got a 5-second penalty, which then turned into a 10-second penalty. Like, just get on with it. And then finally, I think what was quite interesting in this race, well, 2 things, is the curse, which is that
whoever wins the first race of the season doesn't win
it comes second.
In Drivers' Championship, so fingers crossed that comes true again.
Comes through. And then the ageism. I mean, one of the most consistent comments wasn't, there's Alonso making a great drive, and Hamilton, it was like,
he's 41.
He's 41, these are the
he's 41, he's 41, he's 37.
These are the 2 oldest guys on the grids, and it's like, and they're arguably 2 of the best drivers. I just found it weird how the commentary was entirely about their age. Like, it doesn't
they love
matter.
it. I mean, it's commentators will just mention.
It's probably because the commentators, are running out of breath just commentating and thinking, how are these guys doing it? But in terms of going into the team performance, Red Bull.
There's not much you can say. They were incredible. I mean, Verstappen won by 50 seconds.
Yeah, he was 11 seconds clear of Perez.
And Perez was 38 seconds clear of Alonso. I mean, just what more can you add? They finished P1, P2 qualifying. Dominated the race. I mean, it was...
almost 2 pit stops clear, basically.
I mean, by lap 4, he had a 3.5 second lead.
Yeah.
By the time he pitted, he had which was 13 laps in, he had a 15 second lead. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even difficult for them.
It was
generally an incredible performance.
Yeah.
The car is incredible. the drivers, obviously the two fantastic drivers, they didn't look like they were challenged at all. They were having the time now. They were probably coasting for 50% of that race,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was Max saying he had some downshift problems, but
didn't look like it. Didn't look like it.
Yeah. And then Aston Martin, so they qualified in
5th and 8th.
And then they ended P3 and P5.
I mean, incredible.
So outside of Lance going into Alonso,
I mean,
it was a pretty smooth drive.
The car is very fast. It's not. I don't think it's entirely surprising though, because I've seen this all last year. The biggest issue of Aston Martin was their qualifying pace.
Yeah.
They had no qualifying pace for some reason, but they had excellent race pace. And there were, I mean, Lance Stroll, he had the most P10 finishes in the world last year. And it was all from getting knocked out of Q1. He'd start 18th, 19th, 16th, 17th on the grid, something like that. And then he would just cruise past, take the most overtakes in the world during the race, and then slip into that P10, P9 position. And then the same thing sometimes with Sebastian Vettel. They had incredibly race pace. They had probably, I'd say, the best race pace out of anyone in midfield, but they had no quali pace.
Yeah.
And they had to figure that out. And it seems like they've improved upon their race pace, and they've completely cracked the code of how to get that quality pace out of them as well. So, fantastic for them. I mean, they've made incredible strides, and you love to see it.
Yeah, so the Mercs were qualified P5 and 6 and ended 4th and 6th.
So, it's difficult for Mercedes because they seem to have closed the gap in terms of quali pace, but it seems like their race pace has taken a hit back. And they were suffering from some tyre degradation. And if you had to say one thing about Mercs in 2022, was they had the best tyre grade statistics in the world. Their tyres lasted longer than everyone else.
That's because they couldn't switch them on.
They couldn't switch them on, and they had much better race pace than they had quali pace. It seems like this year, they couldn't keep up with Aston Martin, who they provide the engines for. Yeah. They supply their power units. And I don't know what the politics of power unit supply is. I don't know if they provide Aston Martin the exact same engine they use, or perhaps they provide one that's slightly slower. I don't know what happens behind the scenes. But at the bare minimum, they have the exact same engines. And the Aston Martins were just faster.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Hamilton, when he was trying to attack Sainz right at the end for P4, I think the tyres were worn out and he couldn't do it. And maybe that was from the battle with the Alonso, but the Ferraris were struggling massively, and he was closing the gap and had it to like 2/10, 3/10 DRS range, and then
couldn't get past.
Suddenly the timings fell off a cliff.
Yeah, really interesting.
There's work to be done. And we don't know if this concept they've gone through, the zero side pods, is the correct one. Every extra race we go through with them, it looks like that's just simply not the case.
Alfa Romeo, who qualified 12th and 13th and ended 8th. I mean, going back to Mercedes, it's also that, okay, fine, Fernando Alonso, great racer, Sainz, arguably competitive. Russell couldn't get past Lance, which is...
And it's exactly that's the case. And let's say, obviously there's a huge amount of people that Hamilton fans, huge amount of people that Alonso fans, I think one's better than the other. I'm not going to get into debate. Let's say they're both equally talented. They're the same level of drivers because they're both all-time greats. Alonso beat Hamilton. Okay, good. George Russell is a much better driver than Lance Stroll, and I think Lance Stroll gets a lot of hate, and I think he's actually quite a good driver.
Yeah.
But George Russell is in terms of talent, is miles ahead of Lance Stroll. Way better driver. Was nowhere near Lance Stroll. No. On top of that, starting the race ahead of him and qualifying ahead of him. And Lance Stroll had that impact with Alonso at the start of the race, which kind of slowed him down on the first lap. Lance Stroll blitzed past him. Russell was nowhere near. That Aston Martin is simply way faster than Mercedes at the moment.
Yep. Alfa Romeo, good result from them. 12th and 13th to 8th and 16th. So Joe, I don't think, had a great race. But Bottas, I didn't see much of his race, but he kind of picked his way through the field. And ending in the points is decent from them. And we always said, what's going to happen to Alfa Romeo this year? Seeing that Audi will be coming in 2025, are they going to stop development? Are they now focusing on the next car and the renewable fuels? But the car doesn't look and it looks nice too, you know?
Yeah.
So
the car looks stunning. Yeah, I mean, great race. Bottas is obviously, we know, a very experienced, terrific driver. The car seems to still have some pace. Let's hope they don't make the same mistake they did last year, where every upgrade they brought
made it slower.
Slowed the car down. They were performing worse at the end of the year than they were at the start of the year. Someone figure that out for me, because I have no idea how that works. Not a great race from Zhou, but I think I don't know, sometimes you're in that midfield, you're in those DRS trains of like 25 car lengths just in a row in one big DRS train. You make a couple of wrong decisions, you go from 12th to 16th, not because you didn't perform well as a driver, not because the car wasn't working properly, but your team made the wrong mistake, the wrong choices.
Interesting race from Alpine. I think a tale of two stories. Qualified 20th and 9th, and
finished 9th in DNF, which is basically the same thing.
Yeah, so Gasly qualified 20th because he had track limits, right?
Yeah, he suffered from track limits, but I think even the time he did put out wouldn't have taken him out of Q1, but yeah, he would finish sort of like 16th to 20th. But yeah, he started 20th. Ocon had a good quali, started 9th.
Yeah. And DNF'd, in the end. And so it was
should we start with the positive?
Yeah,
Gasly started 20th. Terrific race. Again, didn't see any of his race. It wasn't shown on TV. But somehow went from 20th, and then you look up at the screen at the end of the race, he was 9th. So, and he's a terrific driver, Gasly. Yeah. Ocon was a disaster right from the jump, literally.
So started the grid position, he was on the line, so he started incorrectly.
I think he was past the line. He got 5-second penalty for incorrect grid positioning.
Yep, and then they didn't serve this 5-second time penalty correctly, which led to a 10-second time penalty, which he was not happy about. And then I don't think the DNF was
I think they saved the engine.
I think they just saved the engine because there was no coming back and points were not possible. So... Yeah, so great for Gasly, terrible for Ocon. I think Ocon probably would have been quite annoyed that Gasly got points, but let's see.
Well, I hope it's sort of a great kind of inter-team rivalry. I hope there's loads of drama in Alpine. Because it's funny, there was a quote in, obviously, France is very excited for this pairing because Alpine belongs to Renault, which is a French car company. On top of that, they have 2 French drivers.
Yeah.
And then one of the headlines of one of the sports newspapers, it was the headline was "Frérot mais pas trop," which translates to brothers, but not really.
Right.
So even they are aware.
But not really.
They're aware in France. Even they're aware. They're quite cautious about this relationship because they know the dynamics of these two drivers, and there's likely to be heated issues on track.
I just feel like Ocon sometimes has tantrums.
He does whine,
and he always I mean, it's we're not going to go into the whining, but it's a bit like, I don't know. I just think the victimization is quite common with him. But anyways, moving on to the Williams, who I'm pretty happy to see them. They qualified 15th and 16th, and that was Albon and Sargent, and ended 10th for Albon and 12th for Sargent, which I think is really good from them to get in the point, considering, I mean, remember the time that Russell was there, you weren't close to the points. And then also for a rookie to finish 12th, I think you weren't convinced by Sargent, but so far he's been pretty good.
I gotta say, I was looking at, I can't say I followed Sargent through his junior careers, but just looking at the results he put out, he finished 3rd in Formula 3, and then he finished 8th the next year, and then he finished 4th in Formula 2.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that, Mazepin finished 5th in Formula 2.
Yeah.
And we know what a disaster of a driver he was.
Yeah.
So I wasn't completely convinced about how well he would do, but I gotta say he looks kind of a lot better than I thought he was. He looks like he deserves to be on the grid. And he's performed very well, and I hope he becomes a very successful driver, because obviously the American sport for Formula 1 would go up. But it was great to see Albon P10. Everyone loves Albon. And honestly, at this pace, I'd say Williams have more chance of overtaking McLaren than McLaren have of breaking out the midfield. Yeah, I think they've hired better people. James Vowles is probably
going to bring in a lot of top guys. Yeah,
one of the best hires that you could have made.
And then we have the AlphaTauri, so they qualified 19th and 14th and ended 11th and 14th. I mean, it was all right.
Yeah, what can you do?
There's not a huge amount to say about their race.
They're just a very forgettable team, AlphaTauri, in my opinion. You know, I like the two drivers, I wish them well, but they're so limited by what they can achieve.
Absolutely.
But Tsunoda looked like he had some pace this week, and I'm hoping he takes that next step.
Well, this is his now second year in
third year
in F1,
and he's still very young. But he just needs to keep a bit more of a cool head on track.
Yeah.
De Vries has vast experience in racing, so I'm sure he'll be very beneficial for that team. But yeah, I don't think they have the greatest car in the world.
No. Then we have Haas, who I think you're pretty disappointed by this. They qualified 10th and 17th, Hulkenberg in 10th.
Yeah.
And Magnussen in 17th, and have ended, 15th and 13th respectively.
Yeah.
What happened there, Ben? Why did they not smash the competition?
I don't know. Well, Magnussen got stuck in Q1 because he ran into traffic in his last flying lap, which cost him a few temps, so that's really annoying. And Hulkenberg had a great qualifying, managed to get the car into Q3, P10, but he made contact at the start of the race with another car that I can't remember. And he had front wing damage.
Front wing, yeah.
So I had to go change the front wing, and then after that, kind of the race just spiraled downwards. Haas, as much as I love my team, I love Haas, love my drivers. They sometimes do not make the best on track decisions in the world. But fingers crossed for next week. So.
Yeah, another interesting pairing, them two.
Yeah, I know. Well, we know the history behind Magnussen and Hulkenberg. They haven't been the greatest friends on track, but I think they're both in completely different places. And I think once you
leave F1 and you come back, it's a bit less tense.
And also, when they were crashing, they were like 26, 27, 28. They're both 30 plus. Magnussen has kids. I don't know if Hulkenberg has kids. He might do, might not. But they're married. They're very much older. They know what it's like to be out the sport. Their egos aren't as probably big as they once were, and they're much more relaxed about it.
Bruised. And then finally, McLaren, awful race. Awful. I think it was I didn't hear the radio from Norris, but I cannot imagine what he was saying. I imagine it's very good. I cannot imagine.
I would have loved to have just done the on Sky Sports. You can now do this thing where you hit the red button. I don't want to sponsor them. We're not sponsored by Sky Sports or anything, but if you hit the red button, you can watch the whole race from one driver's perspective.
Really?
Yeah. And I would love, and you hear all their radio messages, and
so cool.
So you do. I think you do it from the back of their car or from their helmet, or one of the two. But you literally watch the whole race from their perspective, or from their car's perspective. And I would have loved to have just done Norris, and
I would love to hear what he was saying.
I hope he was livid with the team, because frankly it's unacceptable what they've done with the car, and on top of that, not even that they've designed a slow car, which they have, they designed a car which can't finish races.
Yeah.
So
I think, and you said this, they kept him out just for the data, and I think Piastri is possibly asking himself some questions right now.
I hope he hasn't signed a long contract. That's all I can say, because apparently the thing about Piastri was, he drove with the same Formula 2 team that Charles Leclerc drove at.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's more or less the same people. And they said, or people in that team at least, I'm not going to speak for the whole team, they said they think he's more talented than Charles Leclerc. They think he's a better driver, or has more promise than Charles Leclerc. So that's the type of talent we are potentially dealing with. Obviously, we're not going to see it in this car. So
it's like a Russell situation in
Williams. Potentially. But apparently he's incredibly talented, and that's what we've seen. He won Formula 3, won Formula 2, took a year out, unfortunately, from Formula 1. But he's back now. But, I hope he's not signed a long contract.
Interesting. So that the race recap of the first race of the 2023 season. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, as well as press that notification button so you can get our most recent episodes.